Okay, I'll call the meeting of the Anchorage Municipality of Anchorage Salaries and Emoluments Commission meeting to order. It is October 31st, and the time is approximately 1:08. We had an informal discussion about how to do roll call, and I thought maybe I'd just ask the people around the table to introduce themselves. I can also ask Desiree to take roll as we do so.
Karen Norsworthy.
Pat Redmond.
Kim Hayes.
Steve Rieger, and we have a quorum. The first order of business is to ask for approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that we approve October 31st agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any objection to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. On the agenda, the first order of business is the approval of the minutes of the October 24th meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the October 24th meeting. Are there any additions or changes to the minutes? Can't hear?
Members of the public, Eugene Carl Haberman, please note on these minutes, and thank you for permission to respond. Audience participation, I did speak. It says nothing in the record to show Eugene Carl Haberman spoke on audience participation. It says nothing there, and it doesn't say what I said for the record. This is incomplete minutes, and I would recommend you not to approve the minutes until your next meeting until that has been corrected and republished. Thank you.
Is that normal process, or is it because it's all recorded, or what's the typical practice?
No, I would have to check on that. I don't think that we do specific comments, just that we note that people spoke. But let me verify. I am not the expert on that one, and I will get back to you guys on how we notate these. So if you want to
Table it?
Is there any?
table it, we can do that. Yeah, that's fine.
We have to withdraw
Yes,
the
let's,
motion.
probably the appropriate thing would be to defer approval.
So if move to postpone till the next meeting.
Second.
Is there any objection to postponing consideration of the October 24th meeting minutes until the next meeting? Hearing none, those minutes are postponed. Is there anything else? I guess we're on to old business. And can we just do item B first, just to get it out of the way? I think members have had a chance to review it, and then we can get to the main.
I'm fine with that.
So in your packet, there's a draft resolution. I think it's self-explanatory, but the basic gist of it, Desiree, correct me if I'm wrong, is to put into the code, as well as the charter, the references to the meetings of the Salaries and Emoluments Commission and requirements or specifications about how frequently we meet.
So this resolution is specifically to update the code, to just make sure that you guys, I don't know, it's a little, to make it a little bit more clear, because the charter says, I believe it's the charter, it might be the code, says at least every 2 years, but not more frequently than 1 year. And I believe there were a couple of years where there was no meeting held. And so maybe that caused a little bit of confusion. So the plan is to update the code, suggest you guys meet at least once a year to convene, have something of an organizational meeting and decide if you even want to continue, do informational meetings, that kind of deal. This is just to clear everything up. It's been through Barbara, and the Assembly Council has looked over this also, so it's pretty much good to go unless there are any changes that you guys would like to propose.
I have one. It's on the second page of the draft.
We have one page.
Let's see.
You wanna look at the code change, cause then there's the, resolution that kind of
You guys
explains.
can only approve the resolution. That looks like the ordinance for the
The
assemblies.
ordinance, okay. Excuse me.
And you might be looking at
You're
an
too
old
far,
version.
I think you're too far forward in your binder. Maybe.
Right, so everybody should
Okay.
have a draft that looks like this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
so
font's different.
There's a,
Yeah.
There's a
little
line,
Yeah.
and this is the latest
You're too,
version.
Yeah,
you're too
it's
far
in
into your
the
binder,
meeting.
I think.
Oh, okay.
And it's just the resolution that's in there. The code changes is in the
In the
October.
previous, yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Is that just, yeah, it's pretty similar.
Okay. Well, in that case, may I maybe change my question to a question about the code which is down under the tab agenda and minutes
From our last meeting?
from our last
Okay.
meeting. And it is on the second page of the document that starts an ordinance of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly.
Okay.
And in the paragraph that says meetings, the middle sentence says, "The commission may meet once each year for this purpose, but not more frequently." And I just worry if that could be misconstrued to say we can't do something like what we were doing right now, which is to meet several times,
For information.
you know,
Yeah.
on,
And that's something that I brought up with, the attorney for the Assembly Council.
Public doesn't have a copy, what's your reading? In the dark.
I can follow up with this one, cause I'll ask Dean. Because I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I would agree
Yes.
with Steve. I think it's could be very misleading.
But it is what it says, and what that quote is from the charter.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think
Meeting we
the
can't
charter
change.
is that we meet once a year to make changes to the salaries, but I think we can have meetings.
Right.
That we can have discussions leading up to it, but
Right.
I believe that this could be construed that we can't
Yeah.
have pre-meetings.
The next paragraph says, in order to facilitate the compensation review meetings, the commission shall be allowed to hold other information meetings where the commission can receive information. So informational meetings can be plentiful, but the
Right.
decision on compensation can only occur once in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
what I
the
read.
one thing is, and folks might not like this, is to have a definition of, to do a formal definition of what an informational meeting is and what a meeting is to set
Compensation
the
review.
compensation review,
So that might be.
to better define it.
And it's interesting because there's actually nothing in the code about this commission.
Right.
That's what we're creating.
Yeah, because they've set up just
It's blank.
which is odd.
Well, they never did anything.
Yeah.
I mean, all the years that we've had the commission.
Maybe they were wanting the commission to do it.
Yeah, well, we're never doing it. We're doing it.
Yeah.
The definition that you're talking about, would that need to be included in our resolution, or is that something else that would go in another?
It would just be updated in the ordinance.
Yeah,
Okay.
in here.
Gotcha.
And that is something that I can bring up and
Yeah, I-
have Barbara and Dean look over for the ordinance.
right, that's all we want, and I would say that of the various ways of interpreting it, I think that the way that Jim expressed it is probably closest to what I would feel, which is basically, we can take action no more frequently than once a year on
Right.
SGs.
On the
Right.
salaries, yeah.
And maybe if we just say, define that a little bit clearer, you know, to say the action, I think that might be good too. Because if somebody doesn't read that second paragraph, which sometimes they don't, they
Yeah.
stop and go, aha, they've been meeting more frequently.
So we're, yeah,
Well, I asked
okay,
that
so
question.
let's go to that draft again.
The resolution draft?
The resolution draft, our resolution draft. Let's see if there's a way we could fold that in.
Well, how do you fold it into the resolution when it tells you to reference the attached ordinance,
Yeah.
which says the thing we were just talking about? So would you actually amend the resolution itself, or? Yeah.
I would say we definitely have to amend the code language,
Yes.
because that's what people go to. They're not necessarily, unless there's a problem here, they'll go back and look at the resolution, but they typically just go to the code language.
So in the resolution, you can add a whereas statement saying that you would like to be able to have the informational meetings. It's not necessary. I mean, if you want to add the whereas statement, you're more than welcome. Not necessary if it's gonna be in the ordinance that changes the code.
But I would agree with Steve on that. It might be quite helpful to have a whereas to also include the informational meetings in a resolution.
Would it be right under the second whereas, or where would it make most sense to make, let's see, whereas,
I would say about around the fifth whereas, somewhere in there.
oh, yeah, whereas
Yeah.
the Salaries Emoluments Commission would like to meet at least once per year, review the work of the previous prior year, change them.
And then say something as whereas the commission, Salaries and Values Commission, would like the code to clarify that it,
Informational, yeah.
well, clarify that it may make a recommendation for a change,
Or change, we're actually
you
making
know,
a change, not a recommendation.
where it could make a change, right? No, not more than once per year, light of clarification of the code.
But may have.
And you could always add, and may have as many informational meetings as
As
To
necessary.
help inform this decision.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Because you have to have.
To do the best, yeah, the due diligence, yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise you're doing it on the
I know
fly.
that previous, before I was on it, that they had a number of meetings during the time that they were looking at it. 'Cause I probably could still find them, stuff from the previous person that had my position who handed it on to me. I should give it, I haven't, I will.
Desiree, how urgent is this? I mean, can we look at a draft with this revised language at our next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. You got the gist of what we're looking for?
I'm trying to type that up now.
Okay.
I've got the Salaries and Emoluments Commission would like the code to clarify that it may make changes not more than once per year, but may have as many informational meetings as necessary to facilitate, let me think about this.
To do its review.
You just do that to do that, that's clear, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I'll throw that in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 after the fifth whereas.
Okay.
And we can bring that back at the next meeting. Are there any other changes?
Something to the resolution.
That sounds good. Like to me, I don't see anything.
Yeah, no, that's helpful.
And then I can talk with Dean about the ordinance, and I can probably bring that back to you guys also as a draft for you to look over.
Okay, great. Okay, is there anything else on draft resolution 20019-1 that members wants to raise for this meeting?
No.
Okay, so in that case, let's let's go to item A, the review of salaries of mayor, assembly members, and school board members.
So after the last meeting, we had a couple of requests for CPI and some more information about the school board. And then I said I would mock up some numbers for you guys to look at. So those are what you have in your packet for this meeting. The CPI printout was, I mean, it's the US labor statistics printout, but that's what OMB uses when they make their adjustments for the municipality.
Can I make a comment on
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
salaries? Just, the factored rate of pay is not, listed on here, is not actually what is in the system, because it, sorry, it has to be, only 2 decimal places. So, it's a little deceiving on the factored rate of pay, what it currently is
Mhm.
for folks. So I'm guessing, not having it in front of me, just looking at the first one, it's probably $14.95 an hour, because we
Right.
can't
Right.
do it up to those decimals.
So I
Rounding up.
included the rounding part because that's in resolution 2015-1 that the commission
Right.
made on the rounding. But yes, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
So maybe I should change that title to something else. It's not quite the factored rate of pay.
Because the
If
very
you put
first
an
one.
asterisk and explain that, you know, in this
Yeah.
system, it's only to 2 decimals, but for this purpose, we have all the way out because of our rounding, something like that.
Yeah, because then your next rounding, you're probably rounding, adding to the
Yeah.
challenge.
Mhm.
And if these are official documents, that makes it a little bit challenging for folks, because it's not gonna be match what's in the system. If somebody gets a printout or asks for information to directly come out of the system, it's not gonna match what's here.
Well, I appreciate the CPI information in particular. I did some math, which may need to be double checked, but if the mayor, and I'm talking specifically to the mayor now, because we
Okay.
haven't adjusted the mayor's salary since 2015. And I took the CPI numbers that Desiree provided and compounded them through the half-year point of 2019. And by my figures, it amounted to if it were compounded, 6.6312% of CPI change between the end of 2015 and now.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Did you use the US or the urban Alaska percentage?
I used the urban Alaska.
So just as to throw it out, when the city, for negotiation purposes with the union, we use the US percentages, not the urban Alaska, just to provide that information.
And did you?
What's
know the
what's
reason
the background
why?
on that? Yeah. Preference of which, who likes it?
Yeah, all of the unions like it because, as you can tell, for the most part, the US ends up being higher. There are some years it doesn't, but once we start with a particular one, we
Right.
carry it through, so we don't bounce back and forth. It just,
And when you say once it starts, does that mean for that one contract or for?
forever,
Forever.
that's what we're using
Gotcha.
across the board
Okay.
for all of them, and as part of the negotiations. Now, I'm not saying that they necessarily are gonna get this percentage, but that's what we look at to make sure that we're not giving more than the CPI, unless there is some reason not to. If we didn't give increases for several years for a variety of reasons, then we might go with. And I'm not saying we have to use the US, I just wanted you to have that
No, I
information.
appreciate you doing
Yeah.
that.
How fast fast can you do math, Steve?
What's that?
I said, how fast can you do the math?
Actually, I'm not sure I would actually prefer the
Yeah, what's your-
US. I mean, it seems like what's true for us is what's most important.
Mhm.
And urban Alaska is more germane, it seems.
Yeah.
But just to, I appreciate Karen's additional information, but just to complete that thought, and I didn't double check with our old resolution, but if our last resolution did set the mayor in 2015 at 132,960, applying that compounded percentage changes that to 140,
Yes.
141,776. Actually 777 if you round to the nearest dollar. And I don't have a strong feeling about whether that's the exact correct number, but I do have a strong feeling that unless we take into account inflation, that de facto we're allowing the a salary to erode compared to the cost of living. So I'd like to, I'd probably be in favor of seeing some change to try to address the effect of inflation.
So I just want to ask, again, it was, you came up with a compounded rate of 6.6132%?
6.6312.
6.312.
And if someone has a calculator, we do it on your phone. It'd be nice to double check it, but that was basically, the math was 1.004 times 1.005 times 1.03 times 1.026. In fact, I'll just double check it to see if I get the same result again. You get the same? Okay. Now we recognize that we only have half year 2019 data. Committee comments? People would like to do?
I have a question. So
Yeah.
when we're looking at making the adjustment, if we were gonna do this, let's just say 6.6% increase, that would take effect in 2021.
The next mayor, right.
So 2021. And then would we want to build in any other increase for those next 3 years, or or just do the one increase up to that?
And then meet the following year to
meet in 2021.
Right.
But this, if we don't do anything beyond 2021, whoever the next mayor is, that will be their salary for the whole time.
True,
Right.
you're right.
Regardless.
We can't.
Regardless, unless we build in any type of increase. So that would be set, which means then we would be looking at 2024 as the next increase.
And do we prefer doing the one jump at the beginning every 3 years, or yeah, does that matter, or does that?
Unless we do small, or maybe we look at 6% and then 0.5% or something.
For the next each
2
year
year,
after.
yeah, kind of build something in. Or since the first year, they're just in there for 6 months, do we say then it's not effective until July 1st of the following year? Or do we not give an increase for the next year and then skip to 2023? Because we can make the increases effective, July 1st of every year, or we just skip that 1 year. So it'd be 18 months for another increase.
There's a case to be made either way. If we acted as if the salary were set now, then the commission in the future would have the benefit of accurate information for every year from 2019 forward, which has its benefits, because then you really know what inflation is rather than trying to guess and project it. The flip side is that you get these lumpy moves
Yeah.
that are
Not smooth, yeah.
not smooth.
Yeah, so it's either don't do anything and they become stagnant, so it's always falling behind, and then we're always playing catch up, or we do a small, like a 0.5% or 1% or something built in there. And let me just say, so I don't know if you guys know, I used to be the human resource director, so that's why I have a lot of
Knowledge.
information, but I am retired. We want to make sure if we don't, after they're in, it's just because of system issues, we need to say it's the beginning of the first full pay period following.
Right.
Just so folks don't have a problem upstairs with the system going a little haywire. So just want to kind of help out with that a
And
little
all
bit
those
too.
little
We talked about
roundings,
that,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes,
In our last
yes.
resolution, we
Roundings.
cleaned that up,
Yeah. So, do we have a preference? Because we've gone a long time. I mean, this mayor will have 6 years of no increase at all.
And there's nothing we can do about that. I mean,
No.
that's how,
Yeah,
that's how it is.
that's how it is. And I will say, not every employee gets an increase every year either. So some unions we've negotiated with where there has been no increases, for 1 or more years. Some employees are topped out. Executives only get increases, at the pleasure of the mayor. Some years they're not getting increases. So there's all sorts of different dynamics there.
I guess one third alternative is to take this up next year, since nothing is going to change regardless of what we do, and we'll have 1 more year of accurate information. And we could
But the
pinpoint
election
a little
is
more.
April.
April,
Oh, no, not
it's
now.
2021.
It's the assembly next year.
It's
Yeah,
easy,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
The thing is to make sure
Yeah.
that we do it in such a manner that it can be effective in whatever
Right.
year we want it. Because if we don't time it right, then it's again.
Right.
Really pushed off.
Yeah, I think that is smart that we wait until next year, because that gives us more information.
And I think I'd probably be inclined to do it next year rather than wait until the following year.
Oh, yeah.
because
Right.
Then it,
People want to know what they're in for.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay. Is that the consensus of the committee to leave that unaddressed for this year and take it up next year?
Leave the mirror unaddressed.
Yes.
Can I just make a comment that superintendent salary?
Wow. Oh.
Wow. Quite a difference between the two, what is expected of both.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
Now, moving on then to the Assembly and School Board. We did have a discussion last week about this. I probably misheard what was being said last week, because I thought that the 30 or 40 hours people we were referring to was weekly, but this is monthly. If I read this right there, in the backup materials.
In this packet, sorry, I missed what you said. This packet or
It was
last
actually
week's
from last week's packet.
Okay.
The Assembly.
Yeah, I think the data is monthly.
That's just scheduled meetings. It does not take into consideration outside of meetings, preparation, reading your binders that are 5 or 6 inches wide.
This
Right.
is just the actual physical.
This is
Okay.
just
Yeah.
in City Hall or at Chambers or those meetings.
Okay.
Because looking at page 9, the last page in last week's one was the volume of emails.
Oh.
And that was just for August, September, and the middle of October.
It did make me wonder what is going on with Felix. He's got
Well, he is
exorbitant
the chair.
share.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, but
Yeah.
goodness.
So,
I guess yes.
you know, when you think of the volume of emails, you know, some are probably,
Right, whatever
you can
percent
kind of
is.
move through, you know, pretty quick. It might just be something from IT telling you, we're shutting something down, or from HR saying we're posting jobs or something. But still the, you know, the time, you know, some of those emails can suck up tremendous amount of time. And then we
That's
don't.
a good point.
Yeah, and then we don't have an idea of how many phone calls or other meetings outside of here that they're meeting with constituents with.
And the new information, the email information from the school board also was in that kind of general vicinity. At least have documented, documented by her. The emails were not in there, or phone calls.
And so to confirm, it says, so they have 10 board meetings per month? Is that what that's saying?
no.
Average per month, board meetings 10. I'm looking at the
Yeah.
email from Katie Grant, so 10
Right.
board
Yeah.
meetings.
I believe it's by hour.
Yeah, that's,
I
is
was
it,
gonna say it.
Yes.
I think
it's time, it's not number of board meetings?
Right.
Okay, I was
Yeah.
like,
I
that's
think it's hours.
exorbitant, okay.
Yeah, okay.
10 hours per month, for, okay.
Because I'm thinking.
Oh, and that's how they got 2 for graduation, spread over, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, 2 hours for graduation, that's a record, okay.
No, it's two
Per month, and
two
you spread it
graduate,
out,
they
right.
do the graduations, different board members go to different graduations. And sometimes graduations take
6
longer
hours.
depending on what school you're
Yeah.
at.
Yes, okay, well, that makes much more sense.
Right, her breakdown would add up to 56.
Right. And do most most members agree that school board members don't typically do the activity of, they don't have constituent meetings like an assembly member does, right? They're not hosting. I can't remember the last time that happened. If there is
I don't know
one.
if they meet with parents and.
Right. Things that wouldn't be on this list.
Yeah, they might meet individually with people for this.
Case by case.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's different because.
But they're not expected, you don't expect to see coffees with school board president so-and-so, like an assembly member. I'm just trying to make sure I'm covering all the different types of things.
Yeah.
I believe they're all area-wide too.
Yes.
Yes.
You don't have a district.
districted.
So they're for the most part, they're fairly similar though in meetings and.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you, it's actually, at these numbers, it's more than quarter time. But if you thought of it just for simplicity as quarter time, you could take those salaries times 4, and it would be, a mid-level management salary. And probably most mid-level management people would be working more than a 40-hour week anyway. So I'm not quite as concerned that we're way out of the ballpark, because I thought of when I first thought that those numbers were weekly numbers, not monthly numbers. But I'm sure be interested to hear what the committee members think.
So we.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was just looking for, This is what ours is. What we did in our ordinance. I was just checking it.
Yeah. So we've actually given them,
One
just
and a
like the
half.
assembly. Yeah. And again, there's, goes with the election also.
Right.
Right.
Same.
Has there been any word that there's any issues with the compensation for the school board members that you've heard of?
Yes. I've never heard them say anything individually, I mean,
Yes.
As it stands, our ordinance goes through 2021, the 1.5%. I personally don't see as much urgency as I do with the assembly members on the school board, just because of the factors we talked about. There hasn't been a lot of, like you said, anecdotal information that tells us that there's an issue. Their hours are not as drastic, and we did deal with them last year with the 1.5%.
And we did the assembly 1.5% too.
Right, they're a different situation,
Yeah.
for sure,
Yeah.
as far as what's expected of them from the community, I think. And time, the amount of time outside of.
Does the school board, do they change code? Is that anything that they do?
Our code?
No.
I'm not sure, to be completely honest, what the school board does.
They set curriculum.
They set policy, I can tell you.
Yeah.
Apprenticeship utilization is one of the things they just passed recently, meaning on school construction projects, there's a % that have to be apprentices, so that's something they deal with. There was something that recently didn't pass, but things about what happens in the classroom, like national anthem, they're gonna sing it, right? So they deal with things happening in the schools. They fired the superintendent.
They approved contracts, teachers' contracts.
Approved the teacher contracts.
As a matter of fact, they're part of this negotiations, I'm sure it's.
Yes, they are.
They should not be part of the negotiations, no, just saying.
One of them, I don't know, one of them.
They shouldn't be.
Correct. I agree.
Yeah.
That's the local representative.
Yeah.
Trying to think about- But yeah, they deal with
And they have
resolutions and ordinances.
And the bond is setting up the construction projects.
Right. The budget.
Policy, school board policy, curriculum, discipline.
Yeah, student policies, I guess,
Okay.
yeah, a lot of that kind of stuff.
So looking at, the area of reach of the school board in comparison to the assembly. What the-
Subject matter wise, you mean?
Right, when you think of, they are setting really the laws and governance of the Anchorage, the city of
Yeah.
Anchorage, where the school board is limited to the schools. So, their impact is limited there, where the assembly is much broader.
Yep, agreed.
Public safety, all of that.
So if you look at it, one other way to look at it, if my math's right, I think a school board member receives about 76% or thereabouts of what an assembly member is compensated. So, or putting that on its head, or inverting it, because an assembly member is paid about 1/3 more than a school board member, slightly less than 1/3 more. So it's not the right differential. Maybe that's better, maybe just kind of get a feel for that.
The one thing would be, is that the school board is area-wide, primary, definitely area-wide, while the assembly is area-wide, but particularly for the district. I mean, it's, they respond area-wide, but their focus sometimes is more in their own district. I don't know if that makes any
They
difference.
should focus in their own district, but when they're voting,
It's area-wide, it's just like,
Yeah.
I always said, when we have a community council meeting, whatever we do, even though it may be for our area, it affects the whole community.
right.
And the school board, same thing, it affects the whole community, whether it's citing a school, or closing a school, or relining a school, and that's just boundary switches coming up there, things like that. I don't know. Since we did so much last year, I don't know if we need to, I don't think we need to make any changes in the school board this year. Since we sent it out to 2021. And they're getting they're getting a percentage increase.
1.5 through 2021.
Yeah, I would be okay with not doing anything for the school board right now. I do think the assembly needs some adjustment. Even though that you guys, last time did set it up for it to be a 1.5 increase to 2020 and 2021, maybe that could just be adjusted up to, that we amend.
Instead of a new thing, just to amend the older.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it would be, if we'd amend this, or if we'd have to do a new resolution. I think that's something we might have to ask Dean Gates or
Well,
Barbara.
because the previous resolution included an increase to 2019, which we're in, could we actually amend it, or do we need a new one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm never sure about that.
I think it'd be
I always
cleaner
ask
to do a
legal.
resolution.
I would do a
If we were to do something, I think it's.
Yeah.
Knowing that the new one
Let's
has to take
supersede.
into account, yeah, exactly.
Well, maybe you could leave 2019
We have to
as it
do that.
is, and then
Yeah.
start 2021 and 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you'd have to do, past 2019.
Right.
Yeah.
Date. Keeping in mind, a new resolution would mean the 1.5 to 2020 and 2021 don't exist
Right,
anymore. with
right.
members, yeah. Whatever we come up with.
So, looking at what would be reasonable, if we looked at the Urban Alaska CPI for
Mhm.
2018, it's 3%.
Yep.
Because I think we'd be hard pressed to do anything under 3.
Oh, yeah. And knowing that we had already agreed to 1.5, and this is just saying we're adding 1.5.
Yeah.
That's what we had discussed, looking at the numbers that we have now.
Well, 3% is about $1,000.
Yeah.
I could see just adding $1,000 to the 2019 number and then escalating it 1.5 from that point forward.
But if you add it, it's gonna really, how are you gonna do that with payroll?
I can figure out what the money should be
Oh,
to round
okay.
it correctly.
But
I-
no, it wouldn't affect anybody anyway.
None of the current.
None of the
Current,
ones.
Certainly.
it would be the, anybody who's elected, newly elected or re-elected
Yeah.
In April.
And then the actual change to their pay wouldn't happen until July, or does it happen in April?
It
would
would start in April.
April.
Oh, okay.
The
The
challenge
following-
is going to be for the re-elected people.
Right. what I was
That's
thinking of.
a
Theirs is
system
the
that-
first pay period after.
Yeah, so we'll have to say,
Swearing.
we'll have
We
to.
did that last time, newly elected versus re-elected. I think
Right,
that's the
right.
only
Yeah,
one.
It's
you'll
your
just have to
2018
clarify that
resolutions,
re-elected will
clarify.
have to be at the beginning of the first full pay period following.
Following.
Yeah, yeah.
And then your members who are elected this year are gonna continue on with the 2018 resolution salaries. So it's literally just your newly elected, whoever is
Or
up in
re-elected.
April. Newly,
Yeah.
yep, elected or re-elected, they
Correct.
get the change, but the 5 from this year stay
Stay.
on the 2018 resolution
Correct.
plan.
Correct, yeah. It
Good
was
to know.
like, yeah.
So Steve, would you kind of explain that a little bit more, what you had talked about, what your idea is adding the language?
In part, I'm purposely choosing a round number rather than a
Yes.
percent, because it seems like the sense of the committee is that this is an adjustment that's unrelated to inflation or anything else.
Yeah.
It's a recognition of a differential in workload, and just setting a number that's addressing a different issue.
Mhm.
And so rather than taking 3% of 31,000 or some change, just take $1,000. And that doesn't have to be 1,000, but it's almost purposely a round number.
Mhm.
And adding that to the currently prescribed number for 2019.
Okay.
Folding that right into the same 1.5% schedule that is in the existing resolution, although this would be in the form of a new resolution.
And the 1.5 based on the new number, right?
Based, yeah.
Okay.
But I don't have a strong feeling on the 1,000, I'm just trying to reflect the committee's reference to 3%. Could be 900, could be 1,100, could be, it's just.
Karen's doing
So,
that.
yeah, I'm just looking, I'm like seeing the footnote, looking here, but I wanna. Okay, that's why I'm messing myself up. I'm looking at the chairs against this.
Versus, oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'll get my calculator out too, just to check Terrence's
Okay,
math.
so
Yeah.
so I'm just like looking at, okay, so the base rate of the factor rate is $14.95, but we wanna just add 1,000?
That's up to the committee,
Okay.
but,
Just
you know,
in that scenario, yeah, what does that look like?
Okay, first, and then times, then, so the 15.3 then plus 3%, right?
you know, I just am more comfortable dealing in annual numbers.
Yeah. That's
2,000. That's current.
When it says current, I mean, that's our
That means
resolution,
this-
right, not the year.
Yeah, it's not the year that.
No, it's kidding.
119. Plus 1,000.
So if I did this right, adding 1,000 makes the new factored rate 1543. So that's
Okay.
plus 1,000, and then I just did 3% on top of that, which gave me 1589, which would take the salary, annual salary to 5120.
In 2021.
If are we gonna do the 1,000 plus 3%?
No, I think he was thinking 1,000 is similar to 3% of what they're currently doing, so he was substituting 1,000 for 3%? Is that what you were doing, Steve?
Yeah, basically, do you see
Oh,
this
okay.
resolution, draft resolution
Yeah.
2019-2?
And add $1,000 is what
It
he's
would
saying.
just, this number would be
Yeah.
232,095.19.
And then subsequent years, keeping with the 1.5, is that what you're
Yes.
saying, for 2021 and 2022?
Right.
Okay.
So $1,000 is more or less 3% for the majority, for the chair, but, and then 1.5 for future years.
Yeah. I think that would work.
Agreeable compromise. I was gonna say, as a person who works in that, is that common to do a dollar amount and does it make, it doesn't matter, whatever we have to come up
We've
with?
done both.
Okay.
When we look for executive salaries, when we made adjustments, sometimes the mayor says, I want to do a percentage, sometimes it's a flat amount.
Okay.
And sometimes we do that same things with the unions.
Mhm.
It kind of depends on what's going on.
So just to verify, around 1,000 for 2020, which is the 32,096, and then 1.5% for 21 and 1.5% for 22 for increases.
For 20 and 21, not 21 and 22.
No, 20 would be the $1,000.
Oh, 20,
Because
so.
we're past
Very-
19.
Very
Oh,
fast.
okay, so, okay.
Right, we're working on a 3-year term is how I'm thinking, right?
Well, you know, actually, I would like it to end at the same time with the current school board one ends, so that we can keep those two
Yeah.
Concurrent.
concurrent. You know, I mean, that means that.
So we're only making a 2-year change.
Right,
20 and
yeah,
21.
basically a 2-year change, and then we would address 2022 for both the school board and the assembly.
Okay, so 32,096 for 2020, and then 1.5% for 2021.
Okay, actually, yeah, I mean, if you want, I mean, I'm looking at this schedule, and it looks like the current 2020 is 31,553.
I don't.
Yeah, it is.
5.
Mhm.
That's because you guys, for 2018-1, you increased the assembly by 1.5%. And so the data I provided to you in that first block is a 1.5% increase.
Oh, understood.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm actually looking at a $1,000 change from anything that has to do with inflation. Or on top of anything that has to do with inflation. So if we were going to be at 31,561 next year,
Mm-hmm.
it would be 32,561.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, so 2020, I should have done it on the
From
3150.
That's why I was talking about starting
Okay,
at
oh,
2020.
that's better. 'Cause-
Okay.
All right, that's what I was, okay, let me try that again now. Okay.
Point of clarification, Steve, do we need to vote to extend, we over, or is our meeting not timed that way?
Did you research that? Is it necessary?
I mean,
I did not research
I
that,
don't know, but, you know, just-
typically during our committee meetings, they do extend, they do to extend.
okay, I'll entertain a motion to extend the meeting until 2:30.
I move to approve, extension to 2:30.
Second.
Okay, so it's not gonna come out quite right. So this becomes 32,552.
I won't quibble the $1.60.
Okay, all right, yeah, so the
Okay.
new salary will be 32,552, even for 2020,
Okay.
okay? And then,
And then for 2021, we're saying 1.5, because that's,
Yes.
okay.
yeah. Oh, that wasn't right.
And then, Karen, since you're doing such a good job with math, could you also do the chair?
Oh, sure.
Same thing. Just-
Okay, I'm gonna double check this again, but Desiree, so we have the annual salary again for 2020 is gonna be 32,552 even. That's a factored rate of 1565. And then for 2021, the annual salary is 3330.40, and the factor rate is 1588.
33,030.40.
Correct. And now the chair. Okay, so for the chair, for the annual salary in 2020 is 36,712. Factor rate is 1765. And then for 2021, It's 37,252.80 and a factored rate of 17.91.
I did my math differently, but came out to essentially the similar numbers, so I think those are just fine. Because I think that, you know.
Decimals?
I went with the lower side of things, I didn't go high.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be, because in the resolution 2015-1, it says that you go with the lower amount.
Right. Well, again, we can't actually do this meeting, but we
Right.
could.
So I would draft a resolution kind of mirroring the same one as last year's, change out the numbers, have that ready for the next meeting.
That,
Is that the?
Reflecting these numbers that we just, that
Right.
Karen
Right.
just gave us.
Is that the public hearing meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, it'd be public hearing.
for budgeting purposes, would that be the meeting where we act on the resolution? Because we, have to, because it's.
Right, because then
November.
they'll put it in for first quarter budget revision.
Okay, so that'd be our 1 year, that'd be our one meeting where
Yeah.
we make the change itself, okay, knowing, yeah.
In theory, then we're not with the year. No.
Well, it's November, I'm hoping we're not gonna have to meet for Christmas.
Right. So you would pass, ideally, the 2019-1, which is the meeting schedule change with the amendments that you guys went over today. I'll have that drafted. I'll have a 2019-2 for the assembly member salary change drafted, and you would take action on both of those items.
Yeah.
And what is it, the November 20th meeting, like I said, it's been scheduled
Right.
and
Notice.
public
Yeah.
notice like a month ago, so that's good to go.
What about the mayor?
We were putting
decided
him
to
on.
hold on
That's
till
right,
next year.
that's right.
Yeah.
I sat right here and put it down. I
That's
even wrote it
okay.
down.
It's okay.
Prior to
You're just
the next
testing us.
election.
Yeah.
You're just testing us,
That's
to make
right.
sure we're paying attention.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
you guys were and I wasn't.
Okay, so, we should probably have a motion to notice that. Or is it, are
It's
you
already-
good with us
the
just
meeting's
giving
already
us?
The November 20th
Notice
is
the,
noticed.
okay, so,
It's already noticed as you guys taking action on salary changes.
don't we have to somehow
Well, this.
act on adopting this draft as what we're going to
We
be
don't have a
discussing
draft,
as a
though.
starting point? I mean, the new numbers, or is it, or we don't?
No.
We'll do that at the next meeting.
Well,
Okay.
because that will be the meeting, and that will be available to the public before the meeting, the draft.
The draft will be
Then if we make any
available. Okay.
changes at that meeting, we'll do it at that meeting,
Yeah.
like amended or if we want
As
to make any.
amended, yes.
Okay,
It's
so
just
we're,
like, it's like an assembly.
So I'll have the two drafts ready for you guys at the next meeting. We'll probably get them done this week, actually.
November 20th, okay.
Wait, no, I have time. Maybe like
Okay,
next
today's
week.
Thursday.
I've
This
got
week
time.
is
Yeah, today's Thursday.
But yeah, I'll get those drafted and out, like emailed to everybody, hopefully next week. And so if you have any other random minor corrections, questions, comments, we can go from there.
Okay, so you're clear, so the new numbers, I just want to make sure it's all, the new numbers, the only thing that's different from the status quo are the new numbers for the assembly for 2020 and 2021. And those are 32,096 and 33,030.40 respectively for assembly, other than chair, and 36,712 and 37,252.80 for 2020 and 21 for assembly chair.
I have
Is that correct?
So say your first one again,
Yeah,
the
the
members?
first
32.
Five.
Yeah, sorry, I had those
552.
wrong, 32,552.
Okay.
That's what,
Okay, because I was like, oh.
No, that was an old number, I just read off the right, that's why I wanted to make this clear, so we're all, including me, on the same page. Okay. 32,552 and 33,030.40.
Yes.
And then 36,712, 37,252.80.
Yes.
Okay. There'll be no changes to 2009 for anyone, 2019 for anyone, no changes for school board, no changes for the board of mayor in this resolution, in this meeting. Okay.
Perfect.
Everyone, we all agree that's
Yes.
okay. Okay. Is there any other new business? Reports? Member comments? Audience participation? Anyone from the audience? We're on audience participation.
My name is Eugene Carl Haberman. I represent myself, follow the public process. I live in the Matthew Valley. When the public process is not appropriately, the decision made by the governing body is more like the public interest. Note number one, open meeting set. You note the time, date, and location of the meeting. It was a member of this commission that noted, should we have a motion to continue? And that's a correct question, but it needed to be done prior to that time. I appreciate the commission, but it needs to be done. If you're done, you're in violation, and you can't be operating that meeting. And like if the assembly had a meeting at 11:59 in the evening, and it hit midnight, and they didn't do a motion, the meeting stops. Nothing else is said. When I'm there, I witness that. That's what needs to be done. This is the second meeting I've been out in a row. And what we have here is, now look at the notices. I remind you the last time, and it's happened again. There's no agenda, no packet. You have to come into the meeting here and get the materials. The public has no clue what you're doing. They know who you are, title, time, date, location. The public is blind. Respect, you got a difficult problem here. It's not all your fault. Because I continue seeing Assembly committee meetings in this room, regularly having no agenda, comment, distributed, no agenda. They put it out over here for the public, and it's right when it's basically when it started that committee meeting. That's what goes on. You're being connected, and the ones in charge of stuff is the clerks. And what you got, you also, that so-called public hearing notice, I did look it up on the meeting. There is a notice. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon in this room. And you really want to hear from the people, because most people in Anchorage don't get out of work until after 5 o'clock at night. They don't like to know one significant thing, but you're talking about salaries and to Assembly, for example. The Anchorage Assembly had a public hearing last night. It was on a $1 billion item, the merger of the Chugach Electric and the Municipal Light and Power. You know when they put that darn notice out? I hope that wasn't too bad of a word. Was the day before. They approved it with my protest on the record there. Who was in that room? Who was speaking? The players in the game. Municipal Light and Power people, MEA, and so forth. The public had no chance. And so you're looking at salaries, and look at the way they operate on a $1 billion entity that went to the voters. Okay? They don't care. You do not, in business, you do not reward people for doing a continued bad job. You're punish them. And many of the people you're going to, if you decide to increase their salaries, that's a no. My time's up, and I do not. One short little comment here. What was noticed for the second meeting in a row? I attend a lot of meetings, and some of you have been around for a lot of time in Anchorage, but you showed a clueless of what, like, the school board does. When was the last any of you attended a school board meeting? I mean, it's basic, and it's, if you attend any of them, you would see what they do. And also, last piece, the school board in July decided to change their meetings from to Mondays to Tuesdays. The same night, same Tuesdays is when the Anchorage Assembly's done. There's been 3 meetings, 2 in August and 1, by the way, maybe even 4 now. Next Tuesday, the Anchorage Assembly, excuse me, I ask for permission, you're the chair, you can interrupt me. But what's happened is they're deliberately making it impossible, these people, so that the public in the House to choose to go to a school board meeting and assembly. And I warned the assembly in July, I continue to warn them, I warned them last night, yesterday, and it's business as usual. Where's the fairness, and should these people be rewarded, and those in those seats? Thank you. And the last thing is, it's the chair who says stop. It's not the clerk's prerogative. You chair the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else from the public who's to testify?
For the record, there's no one else from the public in this room.
Yes, there
Yes, there
is.
is.
Oh, someone came in? Oh,
Yeah, actually,
even later, okay. Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Do you have any objections?
No.
Hearing none, we're adjourned.